All right, this house in Lake Stevens, Washington is listed at $975,000, and we're going to walk through a real mortgage quote to talk about what the numbers would look like if you were the one buying this house. How much would your monthly payment be? How much cash would it take to close the deal? How much would you need to bring all in between your closing costs and your down payment? And then how much income would it take to qualify for the loan? Would you be able to qualify based on your income? So we're going to look at those numbers, and hopefully it'll just give you a better sense early in the process while you're just still trying to get a sense of ballpark where things are at, but a more reliable sense than what you might be able to find on an online calculator, because this is a real mortgage quote. It's pulled based on live numbers. So hopefully it'll be a reliable sense and just get you a little bit more confidence early in the process. So let's go ahead and look at the numbers. I am assuming you're bringing some cash to this deal. Obviously, you'll notice right away I'm not doing a 5% down or a 3% down scenario here. I'm assuming you're bringing some cash to this deal. And maybe you can get into this house with 3% down, 5% down, whatever, based on your income, and that's great for you. Awesome. But I think typically a house of this price point, you're probably going to be selling a house that has some equity in it and bringing some cash to the deal. So that's what I'm looking at, those two scenarios here. And then I'm assuming a credit score of 740, just for reference again. If you're on either side of that, great. You can know how that's a little bit how that's going to impact your pricing. But just so you know some of the assumptions I'm making to create this quote. So let's walk through the 25% down scenario, and then I'll show you the numbers there, and then we can come back and look at the 50% down scenario and see how the numbers change. So in the 25% down scenario, your monthly payment is $5,298, and that's based on, there are three different components there. We have homeowners insurance, which is $175 per month, and real quick, just so you know, there is no mortgage insurance on here. That's because we hit that 20% down point. So great, we don't have to pay mortgage insurance. So homeowners insurance of $175 per month. Now that is just an estimate that I've plugged in, but it is based on typical numbers that we see based on our area and based on this price point. It's a pretty common number, a pretty representative number that we see for our area for this price point. That will vary depending on who your insurance provider is and how much coverage you're getting on the house. Obviously, homeowners insurance is going to vary. Rates are going to vary. But this is a pretty representative number. Taxes of $319 per month. That is the actual number that I've grabbed from the county website for this property for 2024. I was a little bit surprised at how low they were for a property of this price point. But it just is going to vary depending on the county and various factors. So great for this property, only $319 per month, which, depending on where you're looking from, if you're used to the Seattle, Washington State taxes, that's pretty low for this property. But if you're used to other areas, that might be high. I don't know. $319 per month, and then principal and interest of $4,804. And that is just based on your loan amount of $731,250 and your interest rate of 6.875%. And that's rates based on today, May 14th. And again, not an advertisement for that rate. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get that rate, but that is representative of generally where rates are at right now. And it is a real rate that one of our lenders is offering based on today's market and based on the assumptions I've made here. But it is based on the assumptions, the timing, all that, and those aren't necessarily going to be true for you. And then closing costs of $12,261. Those closing costs plus your down payment of 25% mean you're going to have to be bringing $258,503. That's all the cash you're going to need from start to finish. That covers, that's not including, if you're selling your house, that's not selling costs on your house. But in terms of just buying this house and getting the loan, that's things like your appraisal, your loan officer, your inspection, the escrow and title fees, all that. And then any prepaids go into closing costs, all that. And then your down payment. So that's the cash you're going to need to be prepared with in this scenario. Let's look at the 50% down and see how the numbers change. Our monthly payment now comes down to $3,697. And homeowners insurance and taxes are still the same. Those are based on the house, not the loan structure, and the house didn't change. So those are still the same. Now principal and interest of $3,203 based on a much smaller loan amount of $487,500. Loan amount of almost $300,000 less. And interest rate still the same, 6.875. And closing costs have dropped down slightly, $11,481, and those dropped down primarily because we have a smaller loan amount, and your loan amount is going to influence your closing costs, how much your costs are, things like prepaids and costs that are based on the loan amount. So $11,481 for closing costs, which means you're going to have to be bringing $501,207 all in to close this deal. Now, in terms of qualifying, would you be able to qualify for this loan? It's going to vary. It's dependent on the monthly payment. So qualifying income is going to be different between these two scenarios. But basically, with a conventional loan, generally the monthly payment that you can qualify for is typically up to 50% or right under 50% of what your gross monthly income is. So basically you just take this monthly payment and then you have to add any other monthly debts you have, because your ability to qualify for debt, when lenders look at it, they look at your total monthly debts, not just your housing payment. For conventional loans, they look at your total monthly debts. And so you take this this new payment that you're trying to qualify for, add any other monthly debts to it, and then basically double it, and that's the income that it would take to qualify for the loan. So in real quick, that is from the lender's perspective. This is just, will the lender approve you for the loan or not? That's approval. That's not affordability. Affordability is another question. It's kind of a subjective question of what can you afford, what are you comfortable with taking on. That's a totally different question and not what I'm answering here. This is just from the lender's perspective. Will they approve you? So the income it would take to qualify here in this 25% down scenario is $10,596. $10,596. Sorry, that's bad. 9 per month in order to qualify for this monthly payment. And then over here in this scenario, $7,394 per month in this scenario. So that's the income it would take to qualify, and just be mindful that income has to be deemed usable by the lender, which it's not always the same as what you think your income is, depending on your pay structure, whether it's salary or commission or you're self-employed. It's sometimes going to be different than in your mind than what the lender thinks it is. So this number has to be what the lender says your income is. $10,596 in this scenario and $7,394 here. I hope that's helpful, just to get a sense of kind of what your numbers might look like early in the process, and if you're just getting back into the game or this is your first time, it just gives you a ballpark of where numbers are in a way that's a little bit more reliable than a mortgage calculator online. If you want to get an actual mortgage quote based on your numbers, your situation, on a house that you're looking at, we'd love to talk with you. Again, we're a mortgage broker based in Bothell, Washington, Cleveland Street Mortgage, and all of our contact information is in the description below if you'd like to just ask about how much you can afford or how much you can qualify for, how much of a loan you could take on, or get a quote on a house you're looking at, or just ask questions. Please do reach out. All of our information is in the description below, as well as just some information about what it's like to work with us in terms of getting your mortgage. So please do reach out.